Thanks.
And you might want to turn it all the way up on the sound bar.
Oh,
You guys weren't so bad here last night or last time, but the audience, I couldn't hear anybody who spoke.
Well, we
Sitting
need to
to the
get a
side.
microphone, like one of those nice microphones that picks up
All the sound in the room.
the computer might just isn't doing
I like those on
it. Well, I made a map there. I was gonna wait till you to figure it out.
All right, okay, get to work.
oh, it's beautiful. I'm not gonna strain my
Well,
brain.
So I had, when I applied for the Ford Family Foundation grant, I had I had changed it so that we're trying to get 1 million. Because I just was like 1.5 million. It was just getting farther and farther, like
Yeah.
unattainable. And so I had done 1 million for that grant. And so then in my mind, when I did that,
Oh, I see.
I was like, oh, we have 235,000 and change. So that's 23.5% of 1 million, not 1.5 million. So I was gonna
I
take
see.
and make this a 0.
Mhm.
I haven't done that yet. So it's, somebody who's math was gonna be like, wait, that's not 23% of the.
Well, they wouldn't know because the number under the line is so little. Unless you walked right up on it, you would just think we were way farther ahead than we are.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, we're waiting. Come on.
He's got 30 more seconds.
Yeah, it's a machine, yeah.
Well, it sounded like my refrigerator ice machine, but I knew there wasn't a refrigerator making ice. So I was just like,
Well, I didn't totally freeze my fanny off this morning.
Well, that's good. I didn't think it was cold when I was in on Friday or Thursday.
It wasn't.
Oh, you told me.
This morning,
Well, the boiler calmed down again.
I don't see it on there. That's why I was curious. I didn't know if we could.
Yeah, it was, a little on the nippy side. After 2.5 hours in the pool, it was starting to
I just
warm
didn't
up.
know about.
It
He
wasn't
said
really
easy breeze.
brighter.
so-
Usually,
Oh, there
yeah,
he is. Okay. I see.
Jeremy's sick.
There it is. Look how horrible he looks.
Hello. Are you a sicko?
Can you hear us?
You probably need to.
There we go. Okay, yes, I can hear you. I was just muted.
Sorry you're sick.
Oh, well, it happens. I figured none of you wanted to get sick, so.
Just waiting for Mark. In case you're wondering why no one's talking.
His chair is empty.
Yep.
I figured.
Hosting Thanksgiving. Any of you?
I usually.
I have for years. And I'm just not doing it anymore. We have 3 of them, but I've got a brother and a sister have huge houses. So we have Thanksgiving in one and Christmas in the other. And then my, son and daughter-in-law in Portland, they host our small group family, my two sons and their families. So, but we should have had 4, I guess. Oh my goodness. John's family, where his mother is staying, we're not going to actually do this year. His mom's not doing very well. So,
Is she no home?
no, yes, she lives with her granddaughter, but it's getting to be way.
Oh,
So John and I are looking for memory care. place for her. Yeah.
Fashionably late.
Boy, that other clock's not quite as heavy.
we wanted to upset you.
Guess you better do those
I'm
things
just-
out
Well,
loud.
Jim, that's Jim's job.
Well, according to my watch, it's 6 o'clock on the dot.
That's according to your watch. Okay,
That's what
Yep, billings are back.
okay, I had to skip my last 100. to get my last 100.
man. You'll get your blood pressure up in here, and you'll kind of end up in the pool.
What is this?
Form?
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know.
Mark and Howard.
I wasn't involved.
Okay.
Copy of the minutes. Did you guys need minutes and agendas?
Yeah.
I have a couple of agendas. Minute.
The meter agenda.
You can take that pink. place it in. I printed off the budget for general fund.
That's, oh, sure.
Definitely. Once I get past this one. There.
Or do you want mine? They're pink.
I have a big bear in my desk, I usually.
Oh, well, at our house, my stepson is severely autistic. Always, we have to have Thanksgiving before there can be Christmas. But to make a turkey is a little much. Cause I'll be going elsewhere. And so I make a chicken and mashed potatoes. And it's just. And then
Okay.
we can go, okay, sorry.
Okay, call to order. Do we do roll call? I see Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy.
I'm here, hello.
Mark, I'm here. Kim,
Here,
Lori,
Here,
Faye,
here.
Orly, Jill, Pledge of Allegiance.
okay.
You have a flag right here.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance
allegiance
to the flag, United
to the
States,
United States of America,
and
and
to
to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adjustments to the agenda.
Are we just seeing that there's no executive session?
Yeah.
So that's the adjustment is, yes, we are
Yes.
going to move 90.0 executive session to December.
Okay.
We have to vote on that, or is that just done?
I think so.
Okay, that gives us a full month, not to worry about it, we can enjoy Thanksgiving and with all that. Because we have plenty of other stuff that we can deal with tonight. Any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay, 20.0, consent calendar, approved September minutes from regular board meeting.
I'm going to move that we accept the minutes as email.
Second.
I've actually got a comment to make on the minutes.
Okay, let's hear it, Jeremy.
So each month, there's been a little what appears to be digs at the new board members in the minutes. For the most part, it hasn't bothered me all that much. However, this month, there's a line in there where the public is asking me to remove incorrect numbers from the website. And it states that I am going to remove those numbers, which insinuates the numbers are incorrect. To be clear, the numbers have never been incorrect. They are not incorrect. I removed them because, or when it became fairly clear that the goal was not correct numbers, but rather simply removing the document. So I just wanted that clarification there.
What paragraph is it in?
That is paragraph 50, about 2/3 of the way through.
All right. I see that.
So it's okay just to,
I'm going to, change my motion to amend it as corrected.
What are we correcting? Can I see this? I'm looking for the attorney standards figures.
so read what I saw you cross that out,
Yeah.
read what you crossed out.
I crossed out in, item 50. Mary Cook asked if
I
the
see.
input under your public are still available to the public and consensus. They are, still available, so he put those on. He agreed to remove this link from the YouTube video today.
And you crossed something out,
That's-
what is the?
I mean, that whole section, I'm crossing that.
Well, we don't have to remove the whole section. It is technically accurate. It's simply missing some clarification. There's one line in there specifically. It says Jeremy stated that these figures are still available to the public. If we could amend that to say that Jeremy believes these numbers to be accurate, and yet, well, essentially that's the idea. I don't know how you reword that, but the clarification is that the numbers have always been accurate.
Jeremy feels those numbers are still accurate.
But they have been removed as.
But they have been, the link has been removed.
That's, their compromise to me.
I will second with that.
Okay, so we all good to go, Jeremy? So we have a motion to accept last month's minutes with the adjustment we just made. And we have a second. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
30.0, unfinished business. 30.1, pool renovation fundraising update, Cory.
we are having our first meeting, Wednesday. In the meantime, Mary has, been in touch with me, given me some information about yard sign company in Florida. And that can do the signs, like $3 a piece for 100. Now, I've reached out to my friend Katie Krupp with Element Graphics to ask her if she would do us the favor and design our signs. And she will do that at no cost. So we're gonna have our meeting, have some ideas for what our signs might say. We wanna raise money. We want to be visible. We want to make the people more aware and familiar with our pool. And also somehow the fact that we can even do it to separate that idea that we are under the school's jurisdiction, we are our own entity. So those are the ideas behind the signs. We'll then build off the signs and those designs to be making flyers like we talked about. Now, those maybe can be done at Vistaprint or some place that I have yet to figure out. But we want to, well, in our meeting, we hope to get ideas about what we can do about fundraising. I'd also reached out to Larry Mullins to ask him advice. He was very helpful. I was glad, and glad for his help. So we've got some stuff to work with and people with ideas, and we're encouraging everybody to encourage others to drum up some interest in helping out the committee. There's also there are people that are already brainstorming, patrons of our pool, friends of the pool, brainstorming ideas ahead of us even about fundraising. So there are some ideas. I want to get more information about that. And I'll have a better report when we have our first meeting. And wish us luck.
Thank you. Do you know what your first meeting is?
November 15th. Yeah, Wednesday.
Here.
Here, 6 o'clock here, right in here.
Okay, well, I might go just a little bit out of order because I see we have Rose from the public that her topic was fundraising. So, okay, we let Rose talk about fundraising right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't write it.
Since we're on topic, and that's what you
All
have.
right.
Okay, so, Chair McAllister and board members, my name is Rose Taylor. I live outside London. I am within the Aquatic District. And I've attended 2 meetings. I've watched the others on YouTube. And I have some concerns. I've tried to listen in order of the meetings where I saw them. And you don't have to answer them right now. Probably painful, whatever it was. What are you concerned about this time? When I was reading the minutes from July 24th, I noticed Mr. Mullins mentioned that Dave Johnson and another past Olympian made it open to a triathlon event to help fundraise. Does anybody know, is this gonna happen, or is that just a wish, or?
Well, since, I mean, I would think that that's not gonna happen since Mr. Mullins is no longer.
So he didn't pass the contact, any contact information. Did you talk to him, where did that come up?
You didn't share that with me.
Make a note, so. next time you talk.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of important, if you can get
Of course, as long as we're on that subject, Larry Mullins, it just seems like what we're doing with our fundraising committee would be, if we had Larry Mullins do what he does, and we are involved in our fundraising efforts, we've always thought about doing the committee right alongside him. He knows people to talk to and things. I do know that, by the way, on triathlon, in years ago, there had been an annual one.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
one of the stops on all the, one of the, or it was one of the early ones.
I had never been involved in the triathlon, so I remember that it had been a popular
Yeah. I did.
event. So, I will ask Larry about that in particular, because I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, let's just see, pass the forward,
But-
with what we're
We can.
Okay, and at the meeting on August 21st, I heard mention that you missed out on a rich time to get donations in the month between October and December. Does anybody know if there's been any follow-up on that? Are they still coming in?
Well,
Receiving any money.
We have a committee now.
we do. Larry, again, I'm gonna invoke his name because he was instrumental in the people with larger amounts of money than, you know.
I know he did,
and-
but what I'm saying is when he resigned, it should have already been.
His
the way I did it was already
resignation,
in the
I
works.
will say, yeah, wouldn't it have been that, his resignation came out of the blue.
So I mean, Larry had been trying to contact different people. And he had been met with, you know, some, I don't know if resistance really is the word, but, I mean, there wasn't anybody on the hook, you might say, at the time that he left. So, I mean, so we haven't gotten any more donations in a sense. The last one, Joe, was what, Oregon Community Credit Union, right? Oregon State, I'm sorry, not Oregon State Credit Union. And that, yeah, well, no, that was 10,000, and that was what, like, August, July? So other than that, there hasn't been any more donations since.
Now, I'm sorry, but I do have a pretty comprehensive list now, of our Lebanon businesses. And I spoke to Larry about how does one approach going into a business, and drumming up a donation. You know, I feel a little bit fish out of water because I've never done such a thing. I did volunteer, no kidding, and I believe in it, but how do I do it? And he recommended that when we get to the point we're visiting, the businesses calling on them, however you call on them, that if we would, a couple of us would speak together, probably Dorothy and me or something like that. Pardon me?
I have experience with that.
Really?
I misunderstood that one meeting here in person and said that he expected small amounts to start coming in every month, like 15,000 or something. And
Well, that's the resistance that I just mentioned. I mean, he did go. I mean, I'm not gonna say people that turned him down because they had their reasons, but, I mean, he did ask quite a few different people and we haven't gotten any. And so then, well, since July, whenever we got that last bit from Oregon State Credit Union, we haven't received any more donations. And there, to my knowledge, there wasn't anybody that he had asked that they were still, you know,
On the hook,
yeah.
hanging,
So,
or whatever.
I mean, there isn't
I thought
a
he
list
would
of
share
people
with
that
me.
right.
Because in at the next meeting, when we did the Zoom and design, he said that he would continue to work for a few more weeks to give Lori a transition period to ensure she's familiar with all the contacts that have been developed. And I was assuming that was the ones he expected to be coming in every month.
Well, there wasn't anybody else coming in every month.
We've got July on,
Okay,
August 15th, and the Oregon State was July 28th.
so to be clear, what he said wasn't correct.
It sounds like Lori just said that she has the information now from him to carry on.
No, she said she has business contacts, not the ones that he was assuring us would start donating.
Well,
Well, he, I mean, yeah, he never had any ironclad assurance. He had groups and different individuals and entities, whatever, that he had hit up. And at the time that he left, there wasn't any group, at least I'm not familiar with any group that he had approached that were definitely going to give us money. I mean,
Now, he told me, when I spoke with him that any that we put on as a fundraiser, that to let him know, and he would try to direct interest. Yes, from people, so
We talked about Lollapalooza possibly.
yes, yeah, I spoke about it, I hesitate to bring it up because I don't know that much about it, but one of the proposed projects was Lapalooza. Yes, it's wonderful, and that was, you know, I did mention that to him, and he said, well, you know, let me know when that or anything else, he's willing to help, to advise, and so I feel comfortable to ask him. Well, he's off and out of state.
I mean, yeah,
I'm not,
he's in Arizona.
yeah, maybe at a future one. We'll see how we can work it.
And, you know, I just wanna make sure that, you know, Larry is the glass is half full type of person. And he was always very optimistic. And I think most PR people that are good at what they do are that way.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was always hopeful that, you know, the next donor would be right there. You know, and like last year, there were people that he confided in me that he really thought would donate, and that wasn't the case. And he was very discouraged that they, you know, turned him down. And so, you know, I mean, I think he was being a good consultant in that he was trying to keep encouraging me, even though it was a lot harder lift. And I know we explained that in different minutes in the past. I mean, I think he thought it would be an easier proposition than it ended up being. So,
But I will still, see what I can get in there.
There's a couple of organizations around here that do pretty good fundraising, to challenge. They do excellent fundraisers. You might be able to help you.
Yeah.
You have a nice facility.
I talked with them before.
So Samaritan Health Net. And they give huge money. They just gave 500,000 to LDCC and. They recommend that people go.
I mean, if somebody can ask and, you know, that'd be awesome.
All right,
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know the.
do you really?
I don't know.
See, this is, what gives me Randy and Virgin, yeah.
Yeah.
You're in
I don't-
Rotary.
You're a Rotary. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm interested. And don't ask me.
Well, good.
I mean, I'm not committing to that right now. Saying, if nobody else wants to.
Or asking how.
How to go about
How
doing it.
LDCC got it, you know? Well, it's 500,000, and I think they gave a lot to, the all need to.
I
Wow.
don't think it was I think it was like 25,000, but for their hot tub, they were trying to replace
Oh,
their
yeah.
hot tub.
Oh,
And so I know it was not,
That's so nice and much.
yeah.
Yeah, numbers.
Yeah.
Are we still going, Rose?
Are you done? Yeah, that's
Oh.
what I was
Oh,
asking.
Okay,
thank you, Rose.
yeah, thank you, Rose. Okay, are we done with fundraising for the moment?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I
Yes.
appreciate, even though, just put one foot in front of the other, that's what we can do.
Yep,
Just keep going. You learn as you go.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, 30.2 employee manual. We have,
Said your name.
it says my name, yes. My help here.
I thought it was
I
very
have one
comprehensive.
or copy.
No, I have it on my phone.
Well written. I think it's good to go, that's my opinion.
I mean, it's been in the works for how long?
Long.
And we've gone by it for years. So with that, I'll move that we accept the handbook as presented and go on with it.
Were there any major updates from the last one? Like major changes?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the whole Oregon paid leave is new, that's not in the old one. I mean, that's probably the biggest one. Pay equity came in, I think that's, well, that probably is different. An update. I'm trying to think what else. Basically, probably Oregon pay equity and then, the pay in Oregon probably is.
So there were state things that had to be happening, state mandates. things
Well,
that had to be
anytime-
added in.
Yeah, anytime there's, the state, mandates, whatever. Yeah. Whatever.
I've got a couple of comments to make on the employee manual. I actually sent Lori a list of them, which the lawyer responded to. I don't believe any changes were made based on that. There were a few sections I found worded rather peculiarly. But the one that really bothered me was one related to firearms. It's a virtue signaling paragraph that has no purpose, and I believe it's inherently flawed as is. And I mean, it has no purpose because we are on a school grounds. Therefore, firearms are strictly prohibited, regardless of what we put in this manual. We can put anything we want in there, and it won't matter. So having that paragraph in there bothers me, especially because it's virtue signaling only.
Especially because what?
Virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling.
It means it's a paragraph that has no practical purpose.
Well, I mean, to maybe be the dissenting voice on that. If all of a sudden we won the lottery or some wonderful, hugely rich benefactor came and said, oh, well, here, I just bought you like 5 acres of great buildable flat land just down the street or whatever. Here's your new site for your new pool. Then, I mean, and if this manual was still in force, then that paragraph would absolutely apply. I mean, I think we have to be a little bit forward thinking that, yes, right this minute, we are on school property. But who's to say if we're gonna be on school property, 2 years from now or 5 years from now? I mean, probably we will be, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that, I think it definitely serves a purpose because, we gotta think in terms of where we're gonna be down the road, not just right this second.
I agree with the forward looking. That is definitely a good way of looking at things. And I'm sorry I can barely be understood here. It's just the way it's currently worded. It feels to me like it removes the ability for anybody on premise to defend themselves, whereas it does not do anything to prevent an unlawful person from taking any form of any action. So as worded is simply not something that I can support.
I find that in the swimming pool environment, that weapons clause is, it belongs there. Because a person that's getting in the swimming pool is locking up a weapon.
I don't disagree with you, Lori. I think that there's a lot to be thought of on there. I think that the way it's currently worded is just a little too all encompassing. And perhaps we could be a little more specific with it. It does make a good deal of sense not to have somebody carrying anything into the pool, but the way it's currently worded, somebody who walks in because they want to refill a soda machine that we happen to have on this nice new pool would also be prohibited.
Because if, you mean if they come carrying a weapon, a concealed weapon? Is that
Right,
what-
so imagine the scenario where we have a dispenser, a soda dispenser, one of those little things where you put $1 in, you get soda out. And you've got somebody who works for the company that refills that. Currently, they would be prohibited. So they have no intention of using the pool. They are simply in and out the front door.
I think they should leave their weapon in the car.
Okay, well, that's a matter of personal opinion, but that's my personal problem with the paragraph.
I'm not in favor of striking that language. Just for any
I read the
discussion.
whole thing, I read it before, and so I think we should just continue with it until something specific comes up from the state or whatever, and then we'll change. And we don't have to come. I move that we accept the handbook as presented.
Second.
We have a move and a second to accept the new handbook as is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Yep, and, oh no, Jeremy opposed, yes.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Kim?
She didn't hear you. I told Jill you opposed.
Okay,
Yeah, right?
Thank you for your work on getting that updated for us. 30.3, resolution to adopt public contracting rules.
Well, I sent out, I have a couple copies. And it's, the one that we currently have is from 2007, I believe. And so. There's a few places in here that you guys can change amounts or, change things around. Other than that, it's,
This came in the email, right?
yeah.
So I have a question. Do you guys do you guys understand the comments that the lawyer put into the notes well enough to go through line by line and decide if the amounts that she said we should decide on need to be updated, or? I mean, she put the amounts in, these are amounts that we chose. I'm not opposed to the amount that we put in. I'm just saying I don't understand the verbiage enough to know if we should be making the amount higher or lower or different. Even in one place, she said there doesn't even need to be amount. So I'm just wondering, any of you understand it enough to know that we should be looking at these and make changes?
You have a specific place you're referring to?
Well, any place where the dollars are highlighted in
Oh,
her,
I see.
in her
Okay.
notes, she had, in some of the notes, she said, if you look at the delegation one, just as an example, because what she wrote was small. The board has the discretion to delegate as much or as little or remove the rules. I mean, so everything in here is flexible. I agree with replacing the old text with the new text. She mentions that things have changed over the last decade, so it obviously needs to be updated. There are some places. And I'm not saying I have no answers. I just read through this like 4 times and read her notes. And, you know, where she, the highlighted dollar amounts are not required by law, they can be deleted or modified as the board decides. I don't know how the board decides, right? Is it just a random number and we're okay with it being there, or is there something we need to know about the numbers? And I'm asking because I don't know. So I'm just asking if any of you have better information or understanding about what these numbers are.
We have the same information that you do.
Well, I agree with Kim that, it is a little bit confusing. And to change a number just for the sake of changing numbers wouldn't necessarily make sense unless you really knew or, you know, what you're doing.
But do we know why she picked the numbers she did?
Well, I do know the answer to some of that. Okay, so for instance, the small procurement. In the past, it used to be that I could spend up to $10,000 on things without getting free bids. Okay, well, then they upped it. Okay, and so then if it was, you know, like under 50,000, I could, you know, get quotes for, you know, let's say we needed a new refrigerator, or, well, refrigerators aren't that helpful, but you get like I can just directly decide like, okay, we're gonna buy this equipment over here and it's $10,000. I don't need to get bids. Okay, so now the state changed it to 25,000. So on that, what, second or third page where it says small procurements, I think it's on page 4, small procurements. Okay, so that now is the new limit for those smaller, I know 25,000 doesn't seem that small, but in the state's mind, those are those smaller procurements. So like, let's say we needed a new boiler and it was gonna be 25,000 for 24,999. Then we wouldn't have to get additional bids. Now, I usually like to get more than one bid, just to make sure I'm, you know, I'm trying to find the best deal. So that's where that number comes in. So like it wouldn't, I don't feel it would make sense to change that number, you know, because that is the cutoff now. So
Can I ask one follow-up question to that? Just because it's unclear from this, and not for any particular reason, I'm just trying to understand. So if you decided to buy that equipment and it was $20,000, and you didn't get bid, which I don't have a problem with, but then you bring it to the board and say, I want to buy this for this $20,000, or is that your decision and we just hear about it?
I would say it's both. So, there's plenty of times where, like, for instance, like, you know, we're buying stuff all the time, right? Like, you know, like a case of paper or, you know, chlorine or whatever. Okay, so there's quite a few, like, the consumable things that we spend a lot on are over the time. Usually I don't consult the board for every one of those first. Okay, now if it's something which I'm gonna talk about in my director's report is our boiler. Okay, like we're probably gonna need to replace it sooner than later. Okay, and that's gonna be expensive. So I am gonna share that with the board. So it kind of depends on what the situation is. If it's more along the lines of, oh, this thing broke right now, I gotta have a contractor come in and fix it, and they found some part that I gotta replace that's expensive. Usually I'm doing that and making those decisions, okay? But if it's something that we are planning ahead, you know, like for instance, this boiler, then because of the price tag too, it's gonna be over 25,000, okay? And then the other thing too is once something goes above, I think threshold is 50,000, then prevailing wage kicks in. So then that makes it even more expensive. So basically anything from, I think it's 25 to 50,000 or maybe 25,000 to 100,000. That, I mean, I'd have to double check. When it's over the small procurement thing, then I have to get pre-informed bids. Then if it reaches a certain threshold, then we get pre-sealed bids. You know, and then you guys would all vote, like for instance, if we were gonna add on, or we were gonna do part of our renovation project. When we do a request for proposal and put that out, then we would be getting sealed bids in, and then you as a board voting on that. So that's why, like, the small procurement thing, like, that's why that number. So,
Well, I felt the same, the same sentiment about the numbers. I didn't know of a compelling reason to change what was there.
but getting back to also Kim's point, and your point too. So, like, I wanna make sure that I'm doing my job correctly, right? And so now, the wording in there that I can spend up to $1,000, like, honestly, like, anytime I spend, I could buy a case of toilet paper for this facility that's gonna be $1,000 if it's like the whole year's worth of toilet paper, let's say. Well, I think it's probably less than that, but you get my point, it's like, I don't wanna have to, like, go to you guys for every little thing. So to me, like, but yet, anytime I spend money on anything, it's considered, I'm spending public money, right? So if it's too restricted in here, then I should be going to you every month for the case of toilet paper, the case of paper, the several barrels of chlorine, because I am spending about 1,800 a month on pool chemicals. Well, that's over the $1,000. So, and then, for instance, like, the boiler conked out over the weekend, and we had to have a repair guy come in on Sunday and fix it. Well, I was out of town and didn't even have cell reception. And so Jim called Jill, and so Jill basically was like, yes, call the contractor and get it fixed. Because otherwise the pool would be like, 70 degrees. And that's why it was cooler this morning, because the boiler calmed down over the weekend. So, so I just would like some clarity and some flexibility to make those, like, emergent kind of problems where I can't, get the whole board together and say, hey, are you guys okay? But at the same token, like, if it's big purchases, I'm usually always bringing that to the board and saying, hey, what do you think about, doing this or that?
Are you comfortable with the numbers given?
Yes,
that's
but that $1,000 thing, like, where it says, like, the director can spend up to $1,000. I just,
that should be more.
I think it needs, I don't mind if it's, you see what I don't know how you, I just want the flexibility. Like, to me, in my mind, public contracting is, if we're gonna hire a firm, like, say I'm gonna get bids to look at replacing the boiler, right? And then I get 3 or 4 different contractors to come in and give me an idea on what they think it's gonna cost, and, everybody has their own, like, oh, they like this brand of boilers, the next guy likes this brand instead. So everybody's bids are very similar, but they're slightly different, right? And so then in that respect, I would bring those bids all to you guys and say, what do you think? And then, you guys can talk about it and debate.
And I kind of feel like there's a difference between if a contract's gonna actually be signed versus if you sign consumable. It doesn't make sense, that's what I heard too. It doesn't make sense that you would have, and if we were worried about what we're spending on consumables, we're gonna see it.
Right.
If there was something that was red flag, we would see it in the director's report when you give us the financials. Then we can ask questions or say, is there something different? So I agree with you. I feel like there's a huge separation between, we're gonna sign a contract with someone versus you just need to go buy paper and toilet paper and pull it.
Right.
Yeah, the
But I
wording,
just don't know what this says. That's where I'm struggling.
well, the wording, the way I read it, Director of Aquatics may enter into public contracts up to 1,000 without approval of the board. And that's may enter a contract.
Like a sign, like a
And you don't
sign,
have
right,
to.
right.
Well, like for instance, when we hired Mr. Mullins, you know, a couple years ago, like, you know, we had the contract there in front of us. And, you know, the board discussed it and, you know, and deliberated on it, and then they decided to, you know, accept that contract. So it was an actual contract. It wasn't necessarily, you know, but for instance, like, you know, last summer, our last shutdown in September, you know, we had some work we had to do in the surge tank. Well, I reached out to HR Mechanical, which is the HVAC slash like sheet metal slash mechanical contractors that we usually use. I mean, we don't use them exclusively, but you know, usually they're always really quick to help us out. Where a lot of other companies, when I call, are like, well, we can get you in like, you know, 3 weeks from Tuesday or something. And so I didn't bring that to the board because, you know, again, it was under that threshold for me to get bids. So I didn't need to get more than one bid, and they had familiarity with our facility anyways, because they fixed stuff before, so I just, you know, that's where I'm kind of struggling at, like, I wanna make sure that I'm following the rules.
So I've got a question. It sounds like most people are okay with the default numbers, but Laura Lee's got some concerns that there might be edge cases. Would it be advisable for us to have some sort of an exception clause in there where we have a dollar amount for an edge case? Laura Lee sends out an email to the board members. If nobody responds back negatively, it just moves forward. Or do we simply need to up the dollar amount? How do we handle those edge cases that Laura Lee's concerned about?
Well, I mean, yeah, but then I would worry about, you know, then you guys are conducting business. I mean, I don't know, I mean, I guess,
Yeah, you're right. We can't do that via email. I forgot.
By the example you choose, you weren't entering into a contract. You were just getting a repair done or whatever you wanted to do. So that's part of where I am unclear,
yeah. well,
because this seems more like contracts that we're gonna sign.
And I thought that too, except when I mentioned these concerns to Eileen, the attorney, she said, well, technically, anytime you're spending public money, you're entering a contract in a sense. But maybe we could just make, you know, how you said it, like, sounds clear to me. You know, when I have a contract in hand, you know, for a future project, not like some repair or, you know what I mean, like something broke down, I gotta get somebody in here right now to fix it. You know, if it's an actual, I mean, right,
Something that requires an agreement for a more than one-time deal.
Did I injure me?
Something that requires an ongoing agreement for a more than one-time event.
for more than what?
He said one time something.
For things.
So hard to understand.
Hey, I don't think it's worth me trying. I think you guys are doing a very good job. Just ignore me.
I know, right?
So, but if you didn't have the power to do what you did, then instead of coming in this morning and they being able to swim, everyone being able to swim, the pool would be 70 degrees. I don't know if they'll swim.
Right,
So you need to have that flexibility. to-
well, and
Yeah, so-
somewhere in here, I read that I can,
The emergency one.
yeah, so in a way, then it kind of was like, well, I don't know, I kind of agree with him that this is, I mean, we need to do it, but
It's hard because here's what, this is my interpretation. The lawyer puts the notes in the comments, but they're vague notes. Because we can do it this way, or we can do it this way, or we can do it this way, instead of just saying, here's what you should do. We're left to our own devices. So, right? So, I mean, I don't have a problem with the numbers, I just don't know if they matter. You know, how they matter. So,
well,
and I guess maybe my suggestion would be that we approve the contract renewal. And next year, we look at what might have happened that we need to make changes. Because we're trying to be good about updating every year. And we don't have to wait a year. If something major came up and we're like, you know, to make it right, we need to do this, we can make this, we can do it. So-
And then maybe you guys could make a motion or just clarify in the minutes that, you know, Laura Lee has the ability to make those emergent decisions to spend money without convening the board. And, you know, cause I guess I just worry about that $1,000. You know, the director has the ability to make $1,000. It's just like, well, I spend more than $1,000 like all the
How
time.
about we add the
So-
words to keep the pool open and funded?
Well, or we just understand that these are, you know, this is really, we're talking about an actual contract that I would have in my hand.
That's how I.
You know what I mean?
Especially consumables, no consumables, I think are the word. You should be able to purchase whatever consumables are needed on a daily basis for the
Or
operation.
emergent repairs.
Right.
I mean, usually I try and, you know, I'll get
Right.
hold of people for.
That's true.
You need whoever is gonna do the work is the first one up at the plate sometimes, right? The one who knows the equipment, the one who whatever.
Yeah, well, and too, like, and I kind of think that there's that separation between public contracts and getting bids for random work. Because for instance, like when we updated the website last spring, you know, I shopped around and I got different bids and then I brought it to the board and everybody was like, yeah, let's go with, you know, I did go. So, okay.
So I agree with him. I think we ought to go ahead and put this through and revisit it at a point that something comes up that we do something major.
Didn't
Yeah,
foresee.
right, yeah, right.
Okay, like, because I do read it like you do. And so I'd like to make a motion that we approve this contracting rules and procedures resolution.
Give a resolution number.
Well, no, I mean, I can write it in. So it,
Before we approve that, Laura Lee,
what?
would it be a better option to have Laura Lee go and modify this paragraph so we can have a better document to approve rather than trying to put this in the minutes?
Well, and we could do that, so, cause I could next month then have it in a nice, cause it's like all shrunk down from, you know, this format.
Right, so, but what are we changing? What did you think we were changing, Jeremy?
It sounds like you're discussing one paragraph there with a little bit of wording, and it sounds like Laura Lee's got a pretty good idea of how she thinks it should be worded. So she could make that modification and bring it back.
I wonder if in that.
I mean, it's really just under the contracts for personal services. Oh, you know what?
Wait,
like
that's a
mobile-
different one, right?
No,
Because when we're talking about the delegation one.
yeah. Why, okay, why don't I like Jeremy's idea. One, I can print it out, so it's without all these stripes and have it all in a nice format that we can read without binocular, magnifying glass. And then I will have the resolution already, and then I'll have maybe an edit that you guys can look at for that paragraph. And maybe add a sentence or two about, you know,
So are you gonna withdraw your motion for this?
I
one?
will withdraw my motion, or I will amend it to what Jeremy
Well,
said, Laura Lee.
I'm going to ask that we table this until next month, when we get a much more readable copy at Motor Lee's later. I'm happy to do that.
Okay. 30.3, resolution to adopt public contracting rules table till December.
Right.
No new business, Okay. So moving on, 50.0, oral request for communication from the audience, Sarah Blake.
Yes, I just have, well, I have a million questions, but I'll keep it to a couple. I noticed the fundraising committee hasn't met yet. Okay, so when it does, will it be posted somewhere? What, and where can I find it?
It'll be posted on the website and in the pool itself. in the
Is it
window
already there?
somewhere.
It's going up tonight.
And the, request is sent to the papers, right? And they will, they either print it or they don't, so that,
But yes, it'll be on the website and it'll be on the window as soon as we.
Website's probably the easiest. I just like to share with my husband. And then there was, I think in the last meeting, this was touched on about repairs. Does the school help with repairs? Not at all. Did you get any information back
Yeah.
from Jennifer?
Well, I called the superintendent's office and I ended up speaking to Will Lewis, who's, I forget what his title is, but he's like the CEO. And, or, he's directly under, Jennifer. And I sent him the copy of my latest contract that I have. That we, or, well, the lease agreement that we have with the school district. And I shared some of your guys' concerns from the last meeting. And he was gonna talk with Jennifer and then look over, I am assuming he has the latest version of the contract or the lease agreement that I have. And because honestly, looking at the lease agreement, it looks like the lease was up in March. Because, so the lease, they came up with the lease back in 2000 when the district was formed. And then in 2003, they did a 20-year lease, which, and it was dated and recorded March of 2003. And so I'm reading that going, wait, 20 years would be 2023. And so when I reached out to him, I said, you know, I think we're actually like, you know, I think this lease agreement is expired. And he's like, oh, yeah, so he is gonna get back.
do we send them another $20 for 20 years?
Well, I mean, honestly, they're supposed to bill me a $1 every year and the last, I don't know, since I've been director, we have to take it.
Doesn't that give us a chance though to get some things added if we have to do a new agreement?
Theoretically,
What is his name?
what
is his name?
the school districts, it's Will Lewis.
My other question had to do with, which I think it's the executive session has been changed to December and if that makes sense. So once that has been, will that be posted somewhere for the public?
So executive sessions, the minutes from those are not open to the public. But for instance, if there was something that, like, for instance, raises or anything like that isn't done in an executive session, that's actually done in a regular meeting. So, well, that's public. So usually what happens in the past, I'll just use like from history. So they meet in executive session and they discuss me or discuss whoever, okay?
Lucky you.
And then, like, if they vote, or if they wanna give me a raise, then they end their executive session. And then they go back into the regular session, and then they would, you know, change or whatever.
So is there somewhere that the public can do that?
Well, that would be at the end of the minutes.
So the minutes will go down and then we'll say adjourned to executive session, and then the minutes will continue with the result.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So they can discuss an executive session, but any action has to be done in a regular meeting. It's a little weird, but
Yeah, well, I'm trying to wrap my. here, can I just ask these lovely ladies about the document you were telling me about before the meeting started? Sure. So I had noticed in the contract for Lisa that it said, in section 4, performance measured against the timelines and specific goals set forth in by the board in a separate document. So I had asked her if there was a separate document, and she said in the past that you guys have had a form or a page to fill out, or a rating thing, or a score thing. And so, because my concern was, how can I go into executive session to have this discussion if I have nothing to look at to decide what the review is? What am I reviewing? There's no documentation. So, Morley said that you guys had a form before, or a page, or I don't know what it was. And so I wanted to know if that was something that you guys still had.
Well, so just like, oh, you know, I've been the director for 9.5 years. So like when I first was interim director, you know, they had like lists of things that I need to get up to speed on, right? And then when I got, you know, my evaluation, like several months in or whatever, then same sort of thing, like, and then it just would depend on who was heading up the evaluation. So you remember when there was another person on board, Hal? Yes. Way back, like he went and had some huge, you know, document that he sent out to all the board members, you know, and it was like, you know, 1 through 5, you know, 1 needs improvement, 2, whatever, you know what I mean? And so then everybody, and he had it all broke down to all these different areas, and then, you know, scored. And so then when you guys spoke to me, then you kind of just globally touched on the results of like that survey that you guys did. And then several years then later, there was one meeting where Jim Root was on the board. And it was probably like 5 years ago, maybe. I mean, it's been a little while ago. And I think Hal maybe still was on board then too. But they had come up with some goals that they wanted me to do over the next year. And so, I mean, one was like attending more conferences and stuff. Do you remember that? You were
Since then, we've haven't
So-
put out timelines, what we've generally been doing. Did I cut you off?
No, that I just, the contract says, it sounds like it's this every
I know.
thing, but what
Well,
I'm
and
saying
even
is,
but even in the policy, it says we're going to do a review every year. If we're doing
Right,
a performance review every year, but based on what?
I'll tell you, based on the contract itself
Yeah.
and each, I don't have mine, sorry,
That's okay.
but all of the duties and responsibilities are reviewed, you know, line by line. That line I have trouble with because we don't necessarily produce a timeline or something. I believe that we can, and we have in the past, but at this point, when we're in executive session, we speak about meeting the terms of the contract or what has stood out, or if there are any.
And there is nothing personal in what I'm gonna say, but the contract is 9.5 years old. It needs to be updated. Because duties change. She's not doing the same thing right now, but some of the things that are in there, absolutely. But not everything, because things change. And the contract has dates in it that are years and years ago.
Yes,
There-
I agree.
The process. So I talked to the SBA. They said that there are many boards who are struggling with no formal review process for the director right now, not just us, and that we really need to look at putting it. So I just wanted to mention that because I don't feel like I can go into executive session and have those discussions because I have nothing to base. If you're telling me to look through the items that are listed in the contract and those are my only items, well, I'm okay with that. But not having goals or other things for 9 years to, you know, I would rather give her a piece of paper and ask her to write down the 5 things that she did in the last 12 months that she would call, you know, not accomplishments necessarily, just, moving things forward or things that you're proud that you got completed, that even just the repairs that were happening during the closure. Because that's something that's current. So. I'm not really going anywhere with this, I'm just kind of making a statement.
I appreciate that.
I'm not even sure where we go with it, but we're still gonna have this issue if we open an executive session next month, because I'm still gonna have the same question. So that's why I was asking. She had mentioned that in the past there was a document that you guys might have had with a rating or something like that, but I didn't know how long ago.
Yeah. But it comes up in the executive session without it actually being written down, you know, that we're going to talk about it. We talk about her fulfilling all the duties that she has to do with running the lifeguards and, you know, and keeping their training going and keeping the pool open. And sometimes it has to be closed, and it might have been today if it hadn't been for people coming in on Sunday and working on it. So it's dozens of things that she does that I'm not even sure how we enumerate them.
Okay, well, let me think about.
So we have a month to think
Yep,
about
let
that.
me think about, and if I, find something that I think could work, I will bring it to a meeting, because that way she can distribute it if it seems like it makes sense. If I can't.
Well, I have a director evaluation thing on there. It might have been the one that Hal did, but I saw it on my computer here a while back. I was going through some old documents. So I can see what I've got and send it to you, or send it to all of you. You guys can, you know, look it over if you did.
Once I said it on that meeting, they want to help with
Mine-
the subway sandwich.
right here. How we will determine how that her work performance when you're never here. Before, seeing what she does daily. I'm here every single day. I see it. Mark's here every single day. But I think it would be very difficult for you not knowing her day-to-day operation, the fire she puts out.
And that's exactly what that's what she should be telling us, so that we can know this. It shouldn't happen here every day. The board of directors, when there's a CEO, they don't see him every day to know exactly what he's doing. He reports to the board the things he's doing. And then the board can review him based on those things. Things like this thing that happened on Sunday, she had to get this repair done. Things that are, you know, different things like that. In fact, one of the things at and I work in corporate, not government, but we have to do self-reviews, evaluations, and then turn them into the managers. And then at our performance review, we go over what we say our things were. They talk about the things that they've seen. There's nothing that says we couldn't find a self-evaluation for her to fill out and give to us, to have a discussion of something to discuss while we're there. Because you're right, I'm not here every day, so I don't see it. But having a list from her of the things she's doing, you know, and seeing if it makes sense, just from the job description in her contract currently as it exists, would be more than there is right now for me.
Well, and one of the things that I did too, and I shared with Lori, I kind of went through, because I agree that that contract is, the list of job descriptions is super vague. And it's not very encompassing of what all I do. And so I did go through and kind of like this summer, and I wrote down like everything that I do. Now, some things I do every day, some things I do once a week, some things every couple months, or you know what I mean? But I tried to update a more current job description. And so that is something that, you know, we could certainly give to everybody. You know, because when I just try and think about all the stuff that I do, it's just like, wow,
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
And I get it, I'm also a contractor, my contract is just renewing, I did the same thing, I wrote down all the things that I did, and gave it to my contracting company, to make sure it's all included before the company I work for. So I get it, you know, that is important, that updates are missing, so that's why I was so surprised not to see this more current. I don't know what that process.
Well, we're in there. You could write down a list of the things that you have to take care of every day, every week, every month, whatever. So that would be very helpful to the board members.
well, I think that more updated job description, that, you know, I mean, that would be something that you guys could, you know, even vote on. Like, this is a more current job description.
Do you know if we wanted to get your contract fully updated, do we talk to the lawyer? Do we, how does that work? Do you know?
I mean, yeah, I know that when it originally came out, some lawyer crafted it. So, I mean, I can give that to Eileen and say, look, this is 9.5 years old, but they want to redo it. And maybe then you could add in more of a better job description, or maybe the job description could be an addendum to, because it just, you know, it's pretty vague. But then when you get into the weeds more, you know, the job description that I wrote out is a lot
Yes.
more clear.
I think.
I mean, you can just say, you know, oversee all the operations of the district. And it's just like, okay,
Pretty
well,
broad.
that's super broad. And so like the job description I created kind of like explained what that looks like.
Are you okay? I can scan in what I got, send it.
Well, and yeah, and I can send it,
Yeah,
how
how
about,
about
I have it. Yeah.
Yeah, can you do that too?
Yeah, and you could always too, if there's something in there that I forgot, you could add it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what if you sent everything over to let Eileen know that that we wanted to do this? And then I'd like to suggest that Mark and I would follow up with her to go over whatever it is she comes up with before it's actually presented to everyone for approval.
So the timeline is to get all this done before next week.
Yeah.
So you send in, what you have prepared, you let us know. So we can-
I do believe we have to make a motion, and I'll make it fine. Based on what the policy says, in order for us to have direct contact with the lawyer, it has to be agreed by the board that we are able to do that. So my motion would be that Mark and I would be able, I'd like to make a motion that Mark and I would have a conversation with Eileen, to try to firm up whatever she comes up with for Laura Lee's updated contract.
And I can send that wording to her.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
And
Aye.
she costs a lot of money.
Nope, we know. She said it herself on one of the trainings.
Yes.
She's an expensive lawyer.
Well, yeah, and you'll communicate via email.
Right.
Right, easy,
Yep.
like,
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, they're both responsible.
Yep.
Okay, good, thank you.
and
Okay.
Jeremy did vote affirmative, I believe,
Yeah,
yes,
I saw
and,
that.
I don't know if Jill saw it.
Okay. So is that, yeah, finishing up with what Tara had?
Any more questions? You know, open such a can.
Oh, no. It's good. Keep us on our toes.
Okay, moving on, 60.0 Director's Report, 60.1 October financials.
Okay, so I was afraid this meeting was gonna be long, so I only printed off the budget profit and loss, for the general fund. I have a couple copies if you wanna see if Ronan or Tara wants one of those. So. Okay, so, I shared last month. Well, I'm gonna see page one. Yeah, okay, anyways, I shared last month that, yeah, oh yeah. That, on the income side, actually it's on page 2, under our total programs, that we were running ahead. Well, we're still running ahead, so that's really good, so the total programs, that number, 18,126.35. That is all of the stuff that we sell or provide that we get money from, okay? That doesn't account for property tax or timber revenue or anything like that. It's just the stuff that we're directly responsible for, okay? Now, if you look at the total general fund revenue, the very next line down, that is total everything. So when I'm trying to see where we are as far as our program revenue, I pay attention to that total program number. So if you were currently, October is currently the 4th month into our fiscal year. And if you take the 74,000 and change and you divide that by 4, you get 18, that's the average is 18,000 some odd. Well, if you take that figure and times it by 12, then we are really gonna be hitting at like 220,000 for the year for program revenue rather than the 109. So we'd be up about 30,000. Now, you know, December usually is slower revenue wise because we don't have swim lessons. So, anyways, but it's just encouraging that, you know, we're ahead, program. And then it is November, so we do have property tax money that's hitting our account. So that's more just to let you know that, you know, yay, that is happening. Okay, so then if you look down through, the expenses, we had some HVAC, the HVAC system, the 2706, that is, that should be preventative maintenance kind of stuff. And then if you go over to the next page, like maintenance building. So this is a little where it's a little, you know, not concerning, but this is where I keep my eye on stuff. So for October, we spent $6,300 and change on basically stuff breaking down. And then we're already about just under half for the whole fiscal year, and I'm only 4 months in, right? And so that's where I kind of like, but you know, it is what it is. And then everything else, you know, pretty much is in line. So if there's any questions. Okay, so then if let's see, I'm trying to, now our part-time temporary, like it looks like we're gonna be, you know, under budget or right at budget for that, so that's a good thing. That's something that I, you know, try and keep my eye on. Obviously, I can't always keep, you know, I can't control when things break, but you know, personnel and stuff like that we can somewhat control, you know, I'm always trying to, you know, keep my eye on things. And then, let's see, I'm trying to see if there was anything toward the, yeah, there wasn't anything under capital expenses. Now, one of the things that I had looked at doing for this current fiscal year is replacing the diving board. And I got, so we had sent the diving board back 2 years ago. We were gonna try and repair it. Well, then when the company got it and they looked at it, it was out of tolerances for being repaired. So then basically we have to buy it. And so I reached out to them and we got the quotes back. And so it's gonna be around $6,000 to replace the diving board. that's with some new hardware to install it. And then also the lead time on that particular item is 12 to, like anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks out. So if I did buy it today, I mean, we're not gonna have it for another, maybe 3 months from now, maybe 4 months from now. So it's WMS Aquatics. And they're super reputable, but the diving board itself is made by Duraflame. And so, they don't have diving boards on, they just sitting around. Or if they do, they're sitting around on the East Coast. And then this thing is super long, so, they can't just nail it. No, it's gotta get like trucked here, yeah. So anyways, so I was kind of hoping that we could replace that. Because I do have plenty of people from the public who, hit me up from time to time, hey, when's the diving board gonna come back? And, we don't have a lot of other recreational amenity, I mean, we have the rope swing and of course we have the warm pool, but, so the diving board is definitely, the fact that we don't have it is kind of a drawback.
And Maureen could teach us.
Yeah, there you go.
So I love a diving board, I just do.
So that, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, now the other thing that I want to bring up in my director's report, I've got some more bad news and then some good news. Okay, so, I mean, the bad news is this boiler. So, it was replaced in 2011. And so, it's like 13 years old. And more than one person has told me that boilers typically only last like 10 to 15 years. So the fact that we're on like 13, 14 years, we're probably nearing the end of its usefulness. And it's harder and harder to get parts for it because it's older. They do still make Aeroco boilers, but of course their models now are, are upgraded or different. And so anyways, well, the company that's come in and repaired this a couple times, they've, for the last year and a half, they've been saying, you guys might want to look at replacing this boiler. Because, like what I just said, parts are getting harder to come by. And it's not the most efficient boiler out there. So anyways, well, on Halloween night, we had some vandalism happen on top of the roof of the high school. Some kids were up there digging around and they flipped a valve. And so it stopped the gas coming to our building. So then that next day, we have no heat, because we have no gas. And so I come in and Jim's already on it. And he's like, we don't have any gas in the building. Anyway, we troubleshoot it, figure it out that a valve got switched off. And so for whatever reason, that just messed up our boiler, okay? But there's no reason why it should have. And so the experts are telling me that it was just coincidental, that now the thing won't stay lit, okay? So it wants to just shut off all the time, which is what happened over the weekend. And so then finally they came in on Sunday and they replaced a part in there. So the igniter. So anyways, now I've got, I think I have 3 other companies coming in this next week to give us an idea, because one is, I didn't want to just take, one contractor's word that we need a new boiler, because if we could fix it and go another year or 2, I'd love to be able to do that. But if all these other, contractors are coming in and they're all telling me the same thing, like, yeah, this thing's on its last leg, and, you need to stop band-aiding it, and you really should think about replacing it. That's basically what I want to find out is, can we limp it along for another year or 2, or do we really have to fix it? And I talked to the maintenance person at the high school and asked him about boilers, and they replaced a boiler in the kitchen, I believe, at the high school the last year or so, and that boiler alone was $15,000, but it was a lot smaller BTU than what we have. So, anyways, just looking at boilers, we're probably looking at 30,000 plus, and that's just for the part, the boiler itself. Then you have to factor in, the labor on top of that. So, I mean, ballpark, we might be somewhere between like, 30 plus to maybe 80,000. I mean, I'm just, I hope it's a lot less, but, I'm just trying to be realistic. I'd rather, plan on it being like higher and then have it come in lower and then be like, oh, so. Anyways, that's where we're at, and I can show you if you guys want, but the flue that goes up, the sheet metal stack that goes up, it has a design flaw in it, okay, so usually they put like a port where they can check it down at the bottom. Well, somebody, like years ago, whoever installed it or somebody, they cut in a piece up on the top, and so it leaks all the time. Okay, and so there's always a puddle of water underneath that boiler. And of course, when it rains, it's like a little lake in there. Well, to replace the whole sheet metal flue all the way up into the roof and on top of the roof, that's gonna be tens of thousands of dollars. And it wouldn't make sense to spend that kind of money just to replace the flue. So he said, that's another thing that you have to factor into your quotes, because that you can't just use that same flue because it's not working right, it's faulty. And he explained to me how it's faulty. So there's that, and then other boilers too that might be less expensive are bigger, and you have such a small space in there that's gonna mitigate what you put in there, because we gotta find something that fits in that small of a space. So it makes sense that we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. So anyways, so then thinking, like, man, we might have to spend 80 grand to replace a boiler this fiscal year. Then that eats into our reserve fund, which potentially eats into our trying to raise money. And then I go back to, should we really spend the $6,000 on the dining board? So, these are the things that I'm always juggling. So anyways, I'm getting information yet at this point.
Okay, a little clarity in here. Jim was telling me about the diner, and that sometimes they melt and whatever. I said, well, you have to fix your big.
Yeah, I wish. I wish. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to some better news.
That's good.
We got the approval for LGIP, the local government investment pool.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and so the only,
Yay, Jeremy.
yeah. I don't know if you heard that, but. Okay, so all I need from the board is, they need 2 people to be listed, on the account. I assume that I would be one of them. And then, you need to come up with another person. Probably a board, maybe the board chair or somebody. And then you guys need to decide like what kind of permissions that they're gonna have. So for instance, they can view the account and have information only. They could be able to view the account and have information plus perform transactions, or they can have permissions to open and close accounts. They can have permission to update the banking information on file. If you think about it, it's like just like a checking account or savings account with the bank. Like you guys would need to decide who you want on there and what permissions they're gonna have. So that's what I need.
What permissions do you have of the current bank account?
Right now, like most all the board members are signers on the checks, which you guys are not yet, but we need to add you. And I think technically the 2 board members that their terms expired, I think technically they're still listed on the account. So we need to get them on.
Yeah.
And then, I usually can move money around.
So
make transactions.
Is this replacing the bank account?
No, this is replacing the money market.
Okay.
So we have our checking accounts, the club account and then the general fund checking. And then instead of having the money market, the bulk of our money, I mean, the deposits just go into the money market right now. Well, the deposits from the treasury would go into the LGA. And then I can still transfer money into the general checking. You know, what I need to. Now, the other thing is the bookkeeper, they have permission to move money. But usually they'll text me first and say, hey, can we move money from the money market? And, you know, like say we're gonna get ready to pay payroll. And, you know, maybe I'm like gone or sick or something, and they realize like, oh, they're gonna have all these checks that are gonna get cashed and so usually she'll text me, the bookkeeper, and then I'll say, yes, please move money. But generally I try and get in there, like if I know payroll is gonna happen next week, I usually get in and move money over ahead of time. But every now and then I forget.
I don't know a compelling reason why, one of the board members would have anything that they need to do that.
I mean, well, what I would say is in case I keel over and die, I mean, you guys don't wanna have me the only
No.
person. Don't do, okay, but
Okay.
I am gonna die someday.
All right.
So I would just say that you guys should at least probably have the board chair with the
Yes.
ability to move money, just in case I get it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
No, I ain't gonna-
Our backup plan is we have to put these right now.
Well,
You said 2 people.
Yeah.
If it's you and the bookkeeper, is that the 2 people though?
well, I don't know if we would really need the bookkeeper on there because,
Are we limited to 2 people or can we have more than that?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can have more than that. They just need at least 2 people. So,
One thing that makes common sense, I think we would have, but it's just,
yeah,
so we're not getting overdrafted.
right. So then I guess I would recommend that it's me, the Tina Koopman, and then one of you guys be on there. Just in case something happens to me.
We have a volunteer.
What about you?
Who wants to be a signer? I'd say put anybody who wants to be a signer on there.
Well,
Well, we all need to be on there so we can sign checks.
that's different now. That's
Okay,
different,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
This is the money market.
Okay, so. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want me to do it, I'll do it, but I'm asking if someone knows more about this than I do and wants to volunteer.
Well, you know, Jeremy's the numbers guy, so maybe we should,
You wanna take this on, Jeremy?
Oh, I don't care. Whoever does it, we're just a backup. We're not really gonna be doing anything.
Where's the backup plan?
Sure, if you want me to be put on there, it doesn't matter who goes on there because Laurel Lee's the one who's gonna be doing all the work.
Hey, well, if you wouldn't mind being the backup plan, and you're the one that got all this started for us, and we do appreciate that.
Alright, sure, why not? I'll do
well,
it.
you know, in case I'm sick or incapacitated somehow, then,
Or you Brown.
well, let's hope not.
Stop that.
Like our saving, but anyways, then you have more backup, because I don't know if Tina, I mean, I'd have to ask her, because see, now, I mean, basically, they're looking at our checking account, right, the bookkeeper is. And they're reconciling, you know, and double checking that we have receipts for everything that we spend, right, so they're constantly looking at our checking account. And before we go to make, you know, we send out everybody's paychecks, that's usually when she's like, hey, you better make a transfer here. So I don't know as if Tina would really want to look at our LGIP. She might,
I'm.
but she might decline, you know, just because, you know, it's our money, not hers. And, you know what I mean, by our, I mean, it's the district's money, and she might not want that
Yeah.
But you
responsibility.
said now she transfers though, right?
Well,
So-
she transfers just because they're already looking at our checking account. But this is gonna be a totally separate account, away from people's bank.
Oh, I see. You're saying with the checking, she sees the money market current.
I understand.
Right, right, so I mean, I think it would probably be just best maybe to have myself and Jeremy, and then I'm just gonna have to be more proactive and kind of really plan ahead. And if there's some reason that I know I'm gonna be sick or I can't get to, like then I can text Jeremy and say, hey, I'm in an emergency situation, you gotta transfer some money for the district, or something like that. I don't think Tina's gonna want that.
We need a motion now, or is that just?
We already approved the.
Yeah, so I just need to get his information and then I'll send it in.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
So just to be clear, we're gonna give him full access? Right, okay. Okay.
All right.
Spend it wisely.
Okay, what's up,
Okay,
Jack?
and then, let's see, oh, real quick here, we had our health inspection on the 3rd, and we passed with flying colors, which we always do.
Yeah.
So, that was nice. And then, the other thing that I wanted to mention on real quick here was the ORPA conference, was great. And just, there was a lot of us Oregon school colleagues, people that went, and it was fun to, to be with everybody. And then there were some really good presentations that I was really glad that I listened and partook of. So that was great. I thought it was money really well spent. And then, Joe Andrews, local Lebanon guy who, has come to our board meeting. Well, he got presented with, oh man, what was his award? He got presented with like, Aquatics Professional of the Year, with ORPA.
Now, he's full operator at Osborne.
So not anymore,
Oh.
not anymore. He works for a company called Strong Refuge Pools. Yeah, he's like into sales and stuff, and then he also has his own aquatics consulting firm that does like trainings, like, lifeguard trainings and puts on classes. He's also a CPO trainer. So like when Jim and I need to renew our CPO training, like we just reach out to Joe and then he runs us through like a refresher course. So, yeah, so anyway, so that was really cool. And I think he was legitimately surprised when he got that award and just really deserving, And he's a Lebanon guy. I mean, he went to Lebanon High School, he swam here at this school class. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yeah.
And so, color me surprised.
Yeah, so, and then the other thing that I wanted to throw out, was, which I kind of am maybe a little bit guilty, or not really guilty, but now I'm a little hesitant. But there's a Association of Aquatic Professional Conference in Reno. And, a lot of my Oregon colleagues were like, well, you're going to AOAP, right? And I'm like, well, no, and they're like, what? So anyways, the ORPA has a scholarship that they were telling me about that I could apply for, and it sounds like I would for sure get it. And then they help offset, I don't know how much, but they help offset the price of the conference.
Oh.
And so I don't know how much, but I mean, they're gonna, knock a few $100 off. But I was wondering about how you guys feel if I went to AOAP. So it's February and it's between districts and state. Okay, so I wouldn't, I wouldn't go for the whole week. I'm proposing that I go Sunday, because so the other reason why I really wanna go is, Sunday, the day before the conference officially starts on Monday. And Red Cross rolls out a whole new lifeguard training that releases in February, right? The end of February, like the 24th, something like that. Well, they're gonna have like a pre-release, a 3-hour seminar where they're gonna show you all the new updates, all the new changes, so then we can then train the lifeguards, to the new curriculum. And that's on Sunday. So if I did go, I'd like to go for Sunday through and then leave on like Wednesday evening. So I'm not there the whole week, but just like, 3 nights and 4 days. And it would be $434 is for the registration. I figured about $400 for the room for the 4 days, cause you know, it's at like some fancy resort thing there in Reno. And, then food, I figured like, I don't know, $300 or so. And then airfare, I have no idea, I haven't booked tickets to Reno, but I don't think they'd be that expensive, so maybe $350. So it'd be probably $1,500 or less if I can get this grant from the ORPA.
When do they let you know? I mean.
I'm
plenty of time.
gonna find out, but basically Melissa, she was the director at Malala. And she basically was like, Orly, and she's the president of the aquatic section for the Oregon Parks and Rec. And she basically was like, Orly, you just gotta apply and then you'll get it. And I'm like, that's it? And she's like, yeah. So I didn't do it today, but I was figuring if you guys, you know, said for me to go, then I would.
Very quick, let's say it's almost.
I mean, I'll get the updates just, you know, through computer and email and all that, but it just would be nice to go. And then, you know, like the Oregon Parks and Rec conference, like there was a colleague of mine that put on this presentation about programming. And, you know, it really got, I mean, she touched on everything you could think of for ways to make money at the pool. And, you know, we do a lot of those things, but, you know, I'm always trying to rack my brain about what else can we add. And then another one of my colleagues did a presentation on lifeguard auditing. And like, you know, like really, you know, things that you can do to just make your lifeguards just that much more ready and trained. And so they did this whole presentation on really auditing your lifeguards. And so that was really worthwhile. Well, I mean, I haven't looked at all the specific like breakout sessions yet, because I just printed this off right with you. And so I know that there's gonna be, and this is, you know, this is the entire national organization, so there's gonna be amazing people that are gonna put on aquatic centers.
You should go.
So, but, you know, it is gonna be spending money, and,
You have training when you're in the budget, so.
well, I do, but, you know, I spent some of that last week at the ORPA, so I was gonna look, see. Okay, no, not dues and subscriptions. It might, you know, it might not be listed on here because there wasn't an active expense for.
That's what I
So, yeah.
think.
Anyways, I mean, I might be close to my limit that I put in there because I wasn't thinking I'd go to it, but then I kind of changed my mind. But I can always add more money in there if we thought we were gonna go way over. which we're not.
I think that,
We have to make all those plans before next meeting.
Yeah, well, technically, no, I mean, the price jumps up again if I don't, you know how like the early registration like was October first. And now I'm into the regular registration, and so then the next big jump happens January 1, January 2nd. So I could bring it back to me with more like specific numbers. And I could research plane tickets.
And so you have to do that, plan, fill it out in unity and.
Yeah, but then too, I could always fill it out and get them to approve it, and then if we decide not to go, I could just say thank you, but no thanks.
It also lets you know how much it is.
Right, right. So, okay, I'll bring it back.
great,
And I believe that's all that I had, yeah. For my,
So that covers all three of your areas there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, 75, remarks from directors.
I don't have any remarkably.
The only thing I wanted to ask is if you could
I mean, but too, we're not going anywhere, they know we're not going anywhere, so, I don't wanna be too, annoying to them. But what I was thinking we do, what I told Will is, cause there is some language in our current lease that's super outdated, because again, it was from 20 years ago.
Right.
In fact, in one of the statements, it says that I'm supposed to get my programming schedule approved from the school district. Well, I don't know when they stopped doing that, because I have never done that. And Will kind of laughed about that too, and so there's definitely changes that we need to make, so, and I pointed out a few of those changes to Will. And so what I expect we'll do is he'll give me like a draft of what they're proposing. And then I bring it to you guys, and then you guys look it over, and then we can, we wanna up this or change that. But definitely, back when I can only just theorize, but back when the district was newly formed, we had just been the high school pool. And so most of the stuff that was happening during the day, programming wise, was all school related, right? You had PE classes, you had, grade school kids, which we still do have that. But there was what we call like dead water. I know you don't want to say that in the products, but basically there was lots of times during the school year and during the day where there wasn't anything going on. And Jill and I, especially since I became the director, like her and I have worked really hard to, like, the only like slack water that we have right now is from 1 to 3 during the day, which we typically close to the public during that time, because that's when we would have high school PE coming in. But other than that, I have classes and programming going all the way up till 1 o'clock every day, which that was not the case 20 years ago, 23 years ago, when it was just, they had rec swim in the evening for the public, and they had rec swim on Saturdays, and they had their normal laps swimming in the morning, the early bird lap, and then it was nothing. It was lots of vacant water. So I think that's why they put that in the original lease. Well, now we've come way, a lot farther from that. But, the school district has a lot on their plate too, so,
I got a question about that. Kim, did you get a copy of that old agreement with the school district? I don't know if you need a copy or not, but would it be worth you sending Laura an email with some of your thoughts as to things that you might want to see in there, that the aid for money, or however you want to word those things, so that Laura Lee can do all those negotiations first before the board sees it, without us having to look at something and then question everything?
I have it scanned in. It's a copy to scan, you know what I mean? So, because I don't have the original. I have the original. I don't have it in a Word document.
I'm thinking more along the lines, as you talk with the school district, you'll already have a list in the back of your mind of some of the ideas that Kim had. So you could bring them up if they were appropriate. We know that we're not going to get everything we want, obviously. But if there was an opportunity to get anything, you'd already kind of have an idea of the direction that, or some of the thoughts and the ideas. It just
Yeah.
seems like if we can do that away from the board without us having to get a copy of something the school district thinks is already done, and then we're like, well, can we try and get more? It seems like if we could bypass that process, that would be nice.
You're probably gonna take to their board too.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so it'll be multiple boards, so.
And that could be why, because I talked to him like the very next day after our spring last month. So, and I sent him a couple emails, but I haven't heard back, so I will reach back to him. And I can scan you guys, I can send you guys the copy of the old one. And then I can highlight some of that, old arcane language that this doesn't even make sense anymore. So.
Okay, with that, I'm going
So we are meeting again for training this month.
30th.
The whole board.
6 o'clock.
So is that an official board meeting?
It's just board training.
Okay, so we all have that, I know I have it on my calendar. So that's the next time we're gonna meet is on the 30th.
Okay.
Not to discuss pool business.
So,
Just-
anyway, I'm going to. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn, I'm in favor.
I.
Aye. Thank you, thanks for hanging out with us, Jeremy.
Yes, yeah. Super. Thank you, Jeremy, get better.
See you later. Hopefully I get to see you, Lori, in a couple days. Hopefully I'll be doing better.
Yes.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay, yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
Shift to 24/7, take care of my dad, my brother was on the hospital.
Yeah, I was driving home.
My brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a full week off. So that's cool. So I had like just 10 days. So I could have just drag around.
I don't know if you pulled that, Jack, because I'm very close carrying.
Sorry.
Sorry, I get busy and I forget to reply. So I did show up,
Yeah.
but I do better about it.
No worries, we do it next.
Well, I mean, he was.
Get together, like, whenever we do, we just look at our calendars.
The actual
Look at every other one, set a date, and we're like, okay, this is- Jill, you know, these are public records now, right?
I don't even know what that is.
So these are the sign-in forms for the audience, so that they have something to talk about, and it's now part of the public record, so it has to be included in all of the data, not just who they are, but these actual documents.
So we got another one to work on our.
So we will keep a copy of it.
Yes, and we've had these for, this is our third time, 3 months, so you should have
You
these.
should just give me the actual, put it in all of our
Okay,
official.
Okay.
copies of our list.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Early. So these are, you know, these are official, right? And here's your quick one.
And, you know, and there's.
So you're,
There's been.
you're available, will we be giving?
Area.
But you said you're a bit more available than your. So, yeah, how about, if, I don't know what day was. Let me look. Because what I'd like to talk about, I do, then, for the training. Maybe go over some of the things that use my part of besides. Just if it's not the first stage, you know, if it's not the first stop. I would want to know.
Okay. Good.
So, hey, you wanna try my crackers?
I saw those and I wasn't sure what they were.
I made them, they were just like today, they're.
Oh.
You won't even know that there's but I just finished them before I came, so I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of cookies. So I want to bring something that wasn't, sweet. And everyone seems to like them, but
Yeah.
there are already chili flakes in there, so we might get a spice.
Yeah, I feel
So
that.
anyways, that's where.
Got some kick to it.
But everyone likes them, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I love it.
Jill, did you wanna end this?
But some of you was.
No, thank you.